Hey guys, what's up? This is Anthony here for another SOTA Street Fighter Round 2 review. This time we're looking at T-Hawk. These are the four versions of the figure. We have the green one, the white one, the player one, blue one, which probably has the best paint application overall. I'll get to that in a second. And the hard to find GameStop exclusive gray one. They're all the same figure though as far as mold goes and accessories. They're all the exact same. The only difference is the painting. And like I said, the blue one has extra paint work on it. I'll get to that. Like I said, the rest are all just plain old solid colors with a little bit of shading. The gray one does have a little bit of texturing in the clothing, but not a whole lot. You can see it there. There's a little bit of texturing in the paint work, but not too much. If you look at the blue one, you can see it right off the bat. He's got a ton of it. So we'll talk about him for the main purposes of the review. As far as accessories go, they all come with a hawk that pegs into their shoulder hole, which kind of sucks if you don't want to have the hawk on there. He's got a big hole in the shoulder, but that's okay because it looks cool to put the hawk in there anyway. And it's actually done pretty well. The sculpt is pretty nice, pretty good paint work, not too much to complain about there. He has two of the open flat palm hands and two fist hands. Both sets have painted fingernails and really good sculpt work, so very nice set of hands on that guy. The paintwork on this guy is probably one of the best batches of all the SOTA figures. He's got this great texturing for his denim. It's not actually textured, it's just the paintwork, but it looks really realistic. The face paint is spot on. The eyes are great, the eyebrows, the face paint, everything is just really top notch on this guy. His belt is sculpted and painted really well. It says Hawk on it. It might actually have a T technically, but looks to me like it's just a border piece. So it says Hawk there, and there's detailing and sculpt and paint throughout. It does have a little bit of rub there. It actually came that way. It's not actually from the rub, so it's kind of irksome, but not too bad. There's shading in the white, the other parts of leather for his boots, and these tassel things. Just really good paintwork overall. The pattern in that stripe there, there's really nothing to complain about as far as quality of this guy goes. Of course, they all have the paint rub issues here and there. Sometimes on the bicep you get that. Here's a good example here. A lot of them have that, but you can usually scratch it off fairly easily. If I'm lucky, it'll come off. Maybe not. But usually you can get that off, so it's not too big of a deal. As far as sculpt goes, this guy's it's really just phenomenal how much effort they put into this figure, and it really shows. We don't get figures like this anymore. Before we get into anything else, let's just look at the clothing. It's all soft goods. It's a separate piece, not soft goods in that it's cloth, but it's the softer material. All the individual tassels, all the torn parts. There's stitch work throughout, sculpted on, of course. As I said, you can see the belt details. There's the seam on his pants. Just all kinds of cloth work on there. Then these are all separate pieces as well. These are separate pieces that are soft to hide the ankle articulation, but you can still see the boot details in there. It's really just a phenomenal figure. The only complaint I have is the toe joint, the way they made that. That should be a much bigger round joint in there to keep it from having that big wedge. But that's really not a big deal to me because of how good the rest of the figure is. As far as articulation goes, other than that, we have a ball peg neck, which is somewhat limited due to the size of the head and the smallness of the peg, but it's still pretty good. You can get decent enough articulation out of it, so that's fine with me. Ball disc shoulders, which actually have a pretty good range of motion despite the bulkiness. That ring right there kind of does get in the way of the shoulder coming forward, but not too big of a deal. Bicep swivel, single jointed elbow, wrist swivel, and the wrist hinge. He has the ab crunch built in, which is hidden really well inside the that shirt that's on top there. Not in the back as much, but still pretty good. And you get a pretty good range of motion out of it still. So for a big guy, they really did a good job with the articulation. He has a waist twist, T-jointed ball disc hips, pretty limited there due to the thickness of the thighs. But he's not one that's particularly flexible in the game anyway, so that's okay, I think. Double jointed knees, which you kind of don't even see the articulation until you bend them because the way they sculpted over that, which is really nice. And then you have the ankle pivot, the cut joint in the foot, and the toe joint. I don't think there's a swivel anywhere in there. It's kind of hard to look, but I don't believe it's in there. It might be, but it's not a big deal either way. So overall, this guy is just really a phenomenal figure. Definitely one of my favorites. Maybe one of my favorite figures out of all my figures. Again, I know I keep saying that about the SOTA figures, but there's so much effort put into them, and the quality, even though a lot of them have a little bit of paint problems here and there and that kind of thing, overall they're just so great compared to what we're getting these days. So I really can't stress enough how nice these figures are. And if you feel this guy, he's probably like 1.5 pounds. He's just massive. He stands almost 8.5 inches tall. So for a $15 figure, you really can't beat that. That's the retail, of course. You can't get them for $15 nowadays. But either way, it's just a phenomenal figure, and I can't stress enough how much you should try to get one. There it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more round 2 reviews. And in the meantime, keep collecting.